Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamey Daddy channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So today we're going to be talking about development. We're going to be looking at Division 2 from the angle of some of the comments that a developer that worked on this game made. So one of the best things that you can do is when you're trying to learn about a video game that you play a lot of, it's nice to kind of listen to everybody, listen to the content creators, listen to the community members, people that you run with, and if you can find, from time to time, developers or even publishers may open up a little bit about their own development processes. And sometimes they don't open about it directly. It usually takes some other incident to spur a conversation on that front. So on Twitter, I was, roaming around the Twitter, and Frederick Thailander, who was the lead 3C designer here on the Division 2, pretty much, was levying a response to the kind of the concerns that a lot of players have had about Outriders. Why is Outriders an online-only game, even though the developers, said they were going to be, making the game, kind of a not live as a games as a service game? Why do you have the online side of it? A requirement for players to be able to play. And he said something along the lines of, for those who are criticizing these games, you have to understand that there are many different things that go into developing a game, that it's in many cases essential that you're able to run your game, run aspects of your game server side. So Youngye, the YouTuber that covers a lot of gaming things or whatever it is, Youngye asked him a question and said, so, what is the technical side of Outriders having to be run on the server and people having to connect or whatever it is? And he said, I can't speak for Outriders because I didn't work on that game, but I can speak on a game that I helped work on. And he referenced the Division 2. Hence, that's why you're seeing Division 2 footage. That's why I'm talking about it. And he said in the Division 2, the AI, or I think he said the Division, I don't know if he referenced Division 2 specifically. He said the AI and a lot of things were designed to run on the server in order for the game to still be able to run at the place that it was. So he said a lot of things like the world, the graphics, and other things being run on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, which he compared to 2013 laptops. That's pretty much what he compared them to. Compared them to 2013 laptop specs, and said if you did not run a lot of the processes for the Division game server side, the game would never have come out in the way that it did. It would have been a much smaller and scaled down game, and that would have been something that was not satisfactory for the looter shooter genre. In fact, if you think about the amount of content that was in the Division game compared to the Division 2, it appears that, there was very little content that came out the moment the game dropped. Now, yes, over time, they released more content, but I think they probably got better at fine-tuning their process with, how they were running things on the server and how things were being run on your own console. And I think it started to kind of click and make sense. But here's another really interesting thing that I got to see on that thread. Somebody on the thread kept saying it's just bad design for people to do that. And I laughed and I thought to myself, well, he just explained the reason why that was done and potentially why they would have done that in Outriders. And people are saying, it's still bad design. And I'm like, well, Outriders is already a scaled down game. So to the, prowess of the developers and the prowess of the consoles that the game released on, I felt like they took the safest bet. The only problem was they just didn't have enough servers. So on their logistics side, somebody dropped the ball on getting good, servers, or getting the servers to run with better fidelity. And that's why people were suffering in the way, that their game was disconnecting, they were losing progress and all of that stuff. And so I think one thing that we have to basically take a look at is, the way the Division has been running and the way the Division 2 has run all of these years. The Division 1, by the way, is still live, ladies and gentlemen. You can log into the Division 1 game and play. In fact, one of our content creators here in the community, GC Rock, has been streaming the Division 1 content for the past few days. I've been seeing, them on my notifications. GC Rock, I'm sorry I haven't had time to watch. It's been crazy out here, but shout out. Good thing somebody's playing the game and still representing the Division 1, because that's still a solid game. And so I think that really goes to show that, in your first run, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. In the Division 1, they made a whole bunch of mistakes. In the Division 2, they tried to correct for some of the mistakes, but still dragged a lot of their bad habits into the second game. I don't think if an Outriders 2 comes out, it's going to be void of all the errors that have been made in the first Outriders game. In fact, I think we're going to see, basically similar things. Because in today's landscape, I think, having to design your game for everybody is a big, huge challenge. So if you even want to say, okay, well, there are other games that have bigger, scopes, bigger aspects to them, and they seem to be, able to run on a specific console, you also have to go back and concede that a lot of those games are actually scaled down games and are not at the same level of games like The Division, games like Outriders, or even games like Destiny in terms of their replayability, or in terms of the way that they actually keep you playing continuously. And if you even also go and dig deeper in them, you're also going to find out that many of them are in some cases console exclusives because they're very popular in a sense. And Sony has been the company that's really highlighted a lot of this stuff. If you think about maybe say God of War, you're going to find out that God of War, even though the game had like all the graphics and all the fidelity, it was a console exclusive and hence a closed ecosystem. So Sony could balance and design that game and optimize that game for basically just 3 consoles that the specs of their design are within their own control. So your PS4 Slim, your regular PS4, and then your PS4 Pro. And so that was all it took. And the game came out looking pretty good, sold like crazy. Did the same thing with Spider-Man, and they're rinsing and repeating this formula over and over again. In fact, when they finally port the games, what they do is they'll port them to PC. They don't even bother asking Microsoft or Xbox, hey, you guys want to, you want to take a look at this Horizon Zero Dawn, or you want to take a look at Days Gone. They just go straight to the PC. And you guys remember when Horizon Zero Dawn, if anybody is even remembering that, Horizon Zero Dawn, when it launched on PC, it was poorly optimized for the PC. And that's because, again, Sony has not necessarily had a lot of their development teams try to, reach outside of the PS ecosystem. And now that's starting to happen. So I think we're going to be seeing games of that scope, but I don't know if it's going to be coming on the Xbox. Now, again, not saying that the Xbox is not able to run them. In fact, I believe that Microsoft made a lot of refreshes over the generation of the consoles, and they got more powerful in terms of that. But with the way a lot of these agreements work and the way we've kind of heard it in the rumor mill, it's challenging for you to be able to make your game run better on one console than the other. I think a lot of the agreements that these publishers sign don't allow for them to be able to do that. So either way, there was just some hamstringing going on in all of that. And then there are also people who are running, these new games, Outriders and such, on PCs that are not even as powerful as, say, your Xbox One, X and your new generation consoles. It's insane that, that's actually a thing, that people are running PCs that are not as powerful as the consoles, and they still have to optimize for them. So if you think about the person that has a, 3 gigs graphics card, let's just say 3 gigs graphics card, and, pretty much still using that, then it goes to say that, okay, how are you going to accommodate those people? Then I think that's where you have to answer the question. It appears that we'll have to run a lot of our processes on the server side so that more people can play the game. So what is, the solution to this? How is this going to be able to be resolved? Well, I think as technology gets more and more ubiquitous, as more and more aspects of technology gets better, and if availability becomes a thing, then it's not going to be that bad. So this year, I think, was where NVIDIA was actually planning to expose gamers to more and more powerful technology, depending on wherever it is that you stand with all of that. But with the way Bitcoin and the way crypto mining became explosive, and even with everything, graphics cards have become pretty much a needle in a haystack to find. Because with the 30 series were supposed to pretty much just bust the entire floodgates wide open with the prowess of what technology could do. But then all those got scalped. Then the other older generation of hardware became more expensive as well because people are trying to leverage those for profits. So your GTX 1070s, which are 8 gigs graphics cards, can run any game, are so expensive, much more expensive than the MSRPs right now on the regular market, that many people can't even get those things. So even if the developers wanted to go ahead and say, okay, let's leverage the power of better machines, they still are at risk of cutting out a huge chunk of their player base. So these are some of the things that have made me be a lot more lenient, even though as a Division player, I will have to tell you that, you know, deep down inside, I'm telling myself, well, it appears everybody has now finally come to terms with how challenging it is to make games. Some people have translated it as, oh, why are all these games coming out as half-baked? Some people have said they're not happy with the state of AAA gaming at the moment. To me, I say there's the challenge of the difficulty, and that's what I want to focus on. There are more challenges I can talk about, but that challenge of the development side, I feel is very necessary for a lot of gamers. So at the end of this video, to actually, you know, kind of cap this all up, I have to say that The Division still stands as a solid addition to the RPG looter shooter genres, the Division 1 and the Division 2. As much as the Division 2 will get criticisms from those who, you know, say the game is not necessarily up to their own standards, they really cannot compare how much a game like the Division 2 has been able to bring, what it's been able to bring to the forefront. You know, even with all of its shortcomings, there is still a huge beam of light that this game is able to shine when it comes to gaming and advancement in technology. I mean, think about the next gen, look of this game, how the game looks on your next gen consoles. If you just were to consider that, then I think what Frederick Thailander is saying from a development side makes a whole lot of sense. But at the end of the day, I want to hear your thoughts about this particular matter. Is it something that needs to be reworked? Is it something where the developers need to just worry about scaling the games to fit so that we don't have these issues and just maybe bring a small version of a more polished product? Perhaps that's probably a very good idea if you were to ask me. But then again, you know, what is the point of making an RPG looter shooter if you cannot bring a bunch of content at launch or in the first day that players are playing it? I'll hear your thoughts in the comment section. Let's keep talking. Thank you so much for listening to the video and for watching. I appreciate you guys a lot. Peace out.